Welcome back to the Contributor Corner for Run Radio. Jennifer Kornblum with Jennifer Kornblum Law. You've got great insight on all things law. What do you have for us today?
Today, I thought we would talk about some of the legal issues that come up in real estate transactions.
Okay.
So I do a lot of real estate, and I am also a licensed realtor, so there's a lot of overlap. So I often get contacted about some of these legal issues. And one of the primary things that I get consulted about, and often too late, is when two people purchase a home together
Mm-hmm.
and they're not married.
Okay.
I don't care. Personally, I don't judge. But when you purchase a home together, you need to take into account things beyond just who's going to be making the mortgage payments and who's making the down payment.
Mm-hmm.
What about maintenance bills and utilities and all the other costs that are associated with owning real estate?
Mm-hmm.
The smartest people are going to sit down before they close on that house and just write up a list of rules that work for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way to address that situation. And then you've got a written contract. So if your relationship devolves in the future, you still have something in writing that shows how it's going to go when you've got to split up that house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one. Another thing that comes up quite often, especially when there's a government loan involved in the purchase of the house, are things like shared roadway agreements, shared well agreements, easements, things like that. So if there is any other property owner who is going to have access to your property, who's going to use something that's on your property, or if you're going to use something that's on somebody else's property, you need to have that agreement put in writing. Because even if you've got a great handshake deal with your neighbor, what happens if your neighbor keels over?
Yeah.
Are his or her family, whoever their beneficiaries are
Yeah.
they going to honor that agreement? What if it's your neighbor that's been maintaining your private roadway and that neighbor sells their home? What happens to the roadway? Who's going to maintain it? How are the costs going to be paid that are associated with that? Really, really good, important reasons to have whatever the agreement is reduced to writing. When it's a shared well, there's an electrical cost every month.
Mm-hmm.
There are maintenance issues. So how do you address collecting enough money so that if the well freezes or needs maintenance, all of that gets paid for? You do that by putting the agreement in writing. And also when the agreement's in writing and it's been recorded, then that agreement follows the land. So even if the two original owners who arrived at that agreement no longer own the property, then the subsequent owners are protected by that writing that was recorded. And so it's just like covenants and restrictions that a lot of people place on property. These are just additional agreements, additional ways of making sure that that property is maintained, that boundaries are maintained, and relationships with neighbors remain at least cordial.
Yeah. That's a great reminder. Now, when that is put into writing, does that need to be notarized or have a legal binding of sort? I mean, can neighbor A and neighbor B just sign it and go along their merry way once it's been put in a drawer, or do you have to have some official signature?
That is a great question. First of all, it does have to be notarized.
Okay.
Every person affected by the agreement has to sign it. So if it's spouses who own property together, then they're both going to have to sign the agreement. And it has to be recorded.
Okay.
So you got to take it down to the recorder's office or to your title company
Oh,
and get that document
okay.
recorded. That way, the document attaches to the property itself, and then all subsequent owners of that property will be bound by that document. And it
Now,
won't get recorded unless it's notarized.
you probably had some experience with this, and people often avoid these things because they're uncomfortable when they don't realize it's even more uncomfortable when you're in a down and out legal battle over something that could have been resolved or avoided completely by having this done. Do you have any tips for bringing that up with your neighbor?
Wow. Okay. So the most important thing is to bring it up with your neighbor.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I get calls and people will relay to me some conflict that they have with their neighbor. And my first question is, have you talked to them about it? And unfortunately, the answer I usually get is no.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is you've got to find a way. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Adulting is hard. But if you're going to own property, then you're an adult
Yep.
and you've got to figure out a way to work things out with your neighbors. So my suggestion is bake cookies, make a lasagna, something. Don't come empty-handed.
Yeah.
Bring something, knock on your neighbor's door or catch them when they're out mowing the lawn and just start a conversation. It actually works out more favorably when it starts that way
Mm-hmm.
because there's no lawyers involved. You don't have the aggression or conflict at that
Yeah.
point. Maybe it's just, hey, we just got a survey and there's a little corner of your fence that overhangs on our property. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Or, you're when your kids get off the bus, they walk across our lawn to get to your house and it's making a big trail across our lawn. What can we do about that?
Yeah.
There are big situations and there are small ones, but every one of them should start with a conversation.
Well, and I think too, if they know that it's usually if it's for their interest as well, you're not trying to take something away from them. You're concerned that the kids could fall down in your yard. I mean, it's not, and I think once they realize, that you're trying to work together for the safety of everyone involved and the care of everyone involved, it usually goes a little bit smoother.
Absolutely. And putting the agreement in writing
Yeah.
protects everybody.
Yes.
It protects everybody who signs the agreement. So it actually is a good thing to open these discussions with your neighbors because you can improve your neighborhood, you can improve your relationships. So, so I definitely recommend that you approach your neighbor first and try to have that conversation.
I think that's a great tip. Thank you
Yep,
so
and it
much.
never hurts to have something in your hands when you show up.
Yeah, those cookies and baked goods for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Thank you so much. You can find out more about Jennifer Kornblum, our other contributors, and listen every weekday at runradio.net.